What if I told you that the things that you're resisting might just be the keys to your personal growth? Hey, I'm Beck, and in this video, I want to talk to you about paradoxes. So, life is full of paradoxes, and they seem completely counterintuitive. But as I've been embarking on my own adventure of being self employed for the first time in my life, and I've thrown myself into this unknown territory, I've noticed a lot of resistance. And as I've been exploring that resistance, I've come across these 5 paradoxes that I want to share with you that are transforming my mindset. They are unlocking levels of freedom in me and creating space for growth that I never knew was possible. And so my hope is that sharing these with you will help to shift your mindset too. So the first paradox is more controlling equals less control. And the paradox here is that the more that we try to control our lives, the more chaotic and unmanageable they actually begin to feel. And the peace that we seek actually comes from embracing uncertainty and allowing our lives to unfold. So I have realized in the last couple of weeks that I had some kind of subconscious belief that I had way more control over what was going on outside of myself than I did inside. I believed that when I had a contracted job, that because I had the contract and because I had the monthly salary, that there was some kind of safety and security in this, that there was a belief that I had control. But the truth is, people lose their jobs, people get made redundant, pandemics happen, and all of that safety and security and feeling of control that I had could have gone in the blink of an eye. I never had any control. The same with relationships in my life. I feel very grounded and secure in a lot of the relationships that I have in my life. And I've been very lucky to have held on to many people for so many years. But again, none of this is in my control. If my friends or my family suddenly need to move away for work or for financial reasons, that's completely out of my control. So people move away, but people also pass away, and that is not in my control. Just watching the news lately and seeing these freak weather events that come along and are destroying communities and entire sort of towns and villages, it also brings into that idea that, even where we live and our routines and the places that we shop and the places that we go to eat, it's all external to us, and none of it is really in our control, that anything can happen and these things can change. So when we try to sort of foster this control over outcomes, people, situations, even our internal states, trying to control and suppress unwanted feelings or unhelpful thoughts, it just creates resistance. And that resistance creates attention, which creates anxiety, which creates stress, which creates more anxiety, and we end up in this cycle. And if we actually choose to embrace that life is really unpredictable and that we have no control over the things that are outside of us, and we start to focus on what we can influence, which is our attitudes, our reactions, and our choices, there's actually a lot of empowerment here. Paradox number 2. The only constant in life is change. So resisting change, which is inevitable, actually creates more turmoil. And if we embraced it, there is sort of paradoxically some kind of comfort in that. We try to seek comfort and we try to seek certainty in things staying as they are. But as I said, change is inevitable, and change is also really necessary for growth. So you just have to look outside. Everything in nature is in constant flux. the seasons change, the trees lose their leaves, they regrow their leaves. And if you just reflect on your own life, maybe just in the last couple of months or the last year, the last 5 to 10 years, you'll notice just how much change has actually taken place, because it's the one thing that is constant. But avoiding change actually prolongs suffering. And trying to, again, it kind of ties in with this notion of control, because trying to control things and not allowing them to change actually creates more resistance in our lives. So I have a friend who is going through some potential redundancies at work, and losing a job, I think, is one of the hardest changes to accept, especially if you've worked somewhere for a really long time. And it's a hard change because we believe that we had some kind of control and some safety and some security there. But I believe that with change, and with big change like this, change that we don't necessarily want to come into our lives, but we have to accept, I believe that reframing the meaning of it is a really good way to accept it. So when it comes to losing a job, it could be that there are better opportunities out there, or that maybe, you know, the safety and security of a job has actually prevented you from seeking out a long-term career shift, but that actually losing a job would force you into doing that. So embracing change that is inevitable actually allows for great transformation. Paradox number 3. Comfort comes from discomfort. Now, I can speak to this very well at the moment because I feel like I'm living in a state of discomfort most of my days. So I was very much in a comfort zone while I was still employed, but comfort actually, whilst it feels safe, it can actually stagnate our personal development. So we have to stretch ourselves. We have to face our fears. So true comfort in confidence and peace and ease actually comes from embracing and working through discomfort. So if you think about anything new that you've ever learned, it was incredibly uncomfortable at first. And once you put in the time and you practiced, it became comfortable. For me, I can also speak to that with discomfort when it comes to recording these YouTube videos. I have felt a lot of discomfort around it, but slowly and surely I'm getting more comfortable with it. Challenges to our current beliefs and our routines is always going to feel uncomfortable, but discomfort is a sign of learning, and it's a sign of breaking old habits. And if we avoid discomfort, then we can actually create long-term dissatisfaction for ourselves. If you think about a relationship that maybe isn't going as well as you'd hope, if you avoid the discomfort of having an honest conversation, it can actually lead to resentment and also just breaking the relationship entirely. So being uncomfortable and having this discomfort actually teaches us resilience. It teaches us adaptability, and it teaches us a self-confidence that you would never get from staying in your comfort zone. And over time, all of these things that feel hard actually become quite manageable. Paradox number 4. Failure is a necessary part of success. So avoiding failure feels really safe, but it actually prevents learning and growth. So the kind of paradox here is that failure is our best teacher, because failure provides us with that sort of immediate feedback. It highlights errors, it highlights weaknesses, and it will give us the tools that we need to improve. If we don't fail, then we have no direction for growth. What I really like to do at the moment is, again, it comes back to reframing the meaning of things, but when it comes to this idea of failure, and when it comes to this idea of trying new things that you could potentially fail at, I like to reframe it as an experiment. So I'm just doing an experiment, and it's going to be my stepping stones to success. Because we have to figure out what doesn't work. We have to figure out what we don't like, because that will ultimately bring us closer to what does work and what we do like. And the fifth and final paradox is that true change begins when you accept things as they are. And it's, again, paradoxical, because how can you accept things as they are and also want to change? But fighting against your reality and what is actually prolongs suffering, in that what you resist persists. So acceptance of where you are, your current situation, it actually creates space. It creates space for growth. And I believe, again, there's a resistance here because we fear losing control or losing hope. But there's a denial in not accepting things as they are that just keeps you stuck. And when you start to accept things, that's when you can actually start to move forward. So when you acknowledge your life as it is, and you have an awareness of who you are and where you are and what's going on, you can actually use this as a tool to adapt and to find solutions. And I think this is particularly important when it comes to sort of seeing and accepting everything about you and about who you are, and seeing all of the things that are great about yourself, but all of the things that maybe you wish that you could change, the things that you do that you know are unhelpful. I think without the acceptance, we can feel a lot of shame and a lot of guilt. But when you truly accept yourself and you truly accept your situation, then that shame and that guilt is removed. And it's really, really empowering. So these are the 5 paradoxes that I want to share with you today. And I hope that you have found them just as exciting and inspiring as I have. Please share your comments on any other paradoxes that you have found to be inspiring in your own life. I'd love to hear. And as always, thank you very much for watching.